You'd think that a film based entirely around the premise of a man trying to have sex for the first time would be hilarious and completely ridiculous and, sort of like a Farrelly Brothers comedy. But The Sessions is none of those things because it's all about a man who's trying to have sex for the first time, but he contracted polio while he was younger and he has been confined to an iron lung for most of his adult life. And therefore, it's not that funny. And as a film that's trying for most of its runtime to be a comedy, a sort of subtle comedy, it really doesn't work. So there's that. The film follows Mark O'Brien, who's played fantastically by John Hawkes, who was excellent in Winter's Bone and has really been having a great career um, as of late for the last 3 or 4 years. Um, and The Sessions is one of his great roles, and he shows the desperation in his character really well, and the the fear that comes with experiencing new things, but the fear that comes with experiencing new things, but also having to deal with this disease, this handicap um, on top of that, and it's a performance that's just absolutely amazing. But it is a film that's populated by many a good performance, but it's all let down by the fact that the comedy in the film isn't that funny. So when he is trying to be funny, it really doesn't feel like he is funny. And it's a film that um, doesn't have very much story. In fact, the entire premise is the fact that he decides he's going to go to a sex surrogate who's played by Helen Hunt, um, and this is the only way he can plausibly have sex and have what he has been striving for so many years. And um, I mean, the entire premise is about the limited number of sessions they can have before uh, emotional attachment comes up and things like this that could inhibit their experiences during these sessions. So they're only allowed a limited number of sessions. And before the film's even up, they say, "How about we stop now?" So you don't get to see like the last 2 or 3 sessions because it seems like they've got enough story in the sections before, but there's so much room to move, and there's so much more story to tell, in my opinion, that the end, the last 20 minutes after all the sessions are complete, feels so rushed and overly just problematic that it kind of ruins the performance given. And in fact, the film has three really just brilliant performances. Helen Hunt's amazing, and the fact that she manages to create these safe environments, these quite relaxed, therapeutic um, sessions, and these scenes come off as really chilled, really quite playful as well. And it's all down to the way that the session is controlled by Helen Hunt's performance, and I think she does a marvellous job. She's definitely one of the best things about the film. And William H. Macy as a priest friend of Mark's really works because it's sort of this priest character who understands irony and also understands that some things in life don't come from believing in the afterlife, believing in God, believing in heaven. He understands that to experience a good life, to have fun to some extent, you have to break the rules once in a while. And for such a devout man such as Mark to hear these things coming from a priest, it sort of gives him the courage to move forward and experience these things at these sex sessions that he instigates. He never would have even considered doing it. Well, I think he would consider doing it, but he wouldn't have gone through with it to such an extent if it wasn't for this character portrayed by William H. Macy. And William H. Macy's performance is really good. But the reason the film really doesn't work is because the ending is rushed, and because it's got some very poor casting choices, in the fact that the film is set around the three main women in Mark's life, and one of them is, in the first 20 minutes, it's a young girl who cares for him, and she's alright, she's just boring. Um, but it's also about his carer after her, who's played by Moon Bloodgood, and uh, you're supposed to get this sense of this powerful friendship between Mark and her, and it really doesn't come across that way. They seem to hate each other in a sort of playful way, but it really seems like they hate each other. And that's not the way the thing's written. It's not the way, the impression that you should be getting from these two characters. But it just does not work. And I think the film spends so much time at Mark's house, where he has to interact with his care workers, or he has to do things on his own, that you feel very bored for a long period of this runtime, despite the fact that you're watching a really good actor work. And it's shocking, because usually I can get past the film's problems to watch a great performance, but the film just is so slow, and it's cut up by these scenes where they're walking to and from sessions, or back from a session to Mark's house, where nothing happens, and they talk about non-events, and they sort of try and fit in this comedy which isn't funny, and yet they think it is. So when it does have flow, and it does have this pace to it in the sessions, and the sessions are good and they're really interesting, it completely loses it as soon as he's out of the room. And it's just unfortunate, because these moments in between Helen Hunt and John Hawkes are so good that, I mean, it's really disappointing, because they deserve a much better film. The script isn't up to par. The story needs work. It feels like the first draft, and no one bothered to write a second one. So I think it could have been an excellent movie, but it just doesn't live up to the hype it's been getting. So if I was going to give a score to the sessions, it would probably be a 4 out of 10, because it's got these great performances, but it really isn't up to snuff.